Happy day, dear children. Welcome to 6th standard English class. Hope you are all good. Now, we continue the lesson No Room for a Leopard. Last week, we learned the half of the lesson. Now, we continue the lesson. Page number 77. At times, I felt certain that I was being followed. And once, when I was late getting home, I saw two bright eyes starting at me from a ticket. I stood still, my heart banging away against my ribs. Then the eyes danced away, and I realized they were only firelit. In May and June, when our hills were brown that dry, it was always cool and green near the stream where ferns and long grasses continued to thrive. One day I found the remains of a barking bear that had been partially eaten. I wondered why the leopard had not eaten the remains of his meal. Probably he had been disturbed while eating. Climbing the hills, I met a part of the hunters resting beneath the oaks. They asked me if I had seen a leopard. I said I had not. They said they knew there was a leopard in forest. The hunters had seen the carcass of the deer and the leopard's pack marks, and they kept coming to the forest. Almost every evening I heard their guns began to wave, for they were ready to fire at almost everything. There is a leopard about, they told me. You should carry a gun. I don't have one, I said. There were fewer birds to be seen, and even the longs had moved on. I thought no more of the men. They were unpredictably and to be avoided if possible. One day, after crossing the stream, I climbed Paritiba, a bleak, scrub-covered hill where no one lived. This was a tough undertaking because there was no path to top, and I had to scramble up with the help of rock and roots. At the top was a plateau with a few pine trees, their upper branches catching the wind and humming softly. There I found the ruins of what must have been the first settler, just a few piles of rubbish now overgrown with weeds, sorrel, dandelion, and nettles. As I walked through the roofless ruins, I was struck by his silence that surrounded me. The silence was so absolute that it seemed to be shouting in my ears. But there was something else of which I was becoming increasingly aware. The strong feline odor of one of the cat family. I paused and looked about. I was alone. There was no movement of dry leaves or loosened stone. The ruins were, for the most part, one to the sky. Their rafters had clapped and joined together to form a low passage like the entrance to a mine. This dark cavern seemed to lead down. The smell was stronger when I approached this spot, so I stopped again and waited there, wondering if I had discovered the lair of the leopard. I wondered if the animal was now at rest after a night's hunt. Perhaps it was crowded there is in the dark, watching me and recognized me as a man who walked along in the forest with a weapon. I like to think that he was there and that he knew me and that he acknowledged my visit in the friendliest way by ignoring me altogether. I did not venture any further. I did not seek physically contact, or even another glimpse of that beauty creature springing from rock to rock. It was interest I wanted, and I think he gave it to me. But did the leopard, trusting one man, make the mistake of trusting others? Because next day, coming up the path from the stream, shouting and beating their drums were the hunters. They had a long bamboo pole across their shoulders, and stuck from the pole, feet up, head down, was the lifeless body of the leopard. It had been shot in the neck and in the head. We told you there was a leopard. They shouted in great good humor. Isn't he a fine specimen? Yes, I said. He was a beautiful leopard. I walked home through the silent forest. It was very silent, almost as though the birds and animals knew the trust had been violated. I remember the lines of the poem by D.H. Lawrence, and as I climbed the steep and lonely path to my home, these words echoed in my mind. There was a room in the world for a mountain lion and me. Okay, children, I hope you understood this lesson. Thank you. Have a nice day.